The following is a fan-based discussion. All properties discussed are property of Toei Inc., Bandai, Hasbro, and Subaru Productions. Go, go, let's go, Kagayaku Machine. Rider, jump, Rider, kick, Kamen Rider, Kamen Rider, Rider. Episode number 137.
Yes. 71.
Kamen Rider, the first one.
Yes. 98 episodes.
Yeah.
I'm so happy we had a month for this.
Wow.
It was good.
What was a giant getting through this, folks?
And the fact that we had to do this slightly one more time.
With Go Ranger,
yes. 84 in that one, so at least there's less.
At least Jacko was short.
Yes, like 30 something. Not me. I got canceled. Yeah.
For reasons we will discuss.
The original writer.
But here we are.
We did it.
We did it.
Long time coming. I know people have been asking for it, and I'm just like, we'll get to it when we catch up. At the time, we were caught up, and the revise ends in a month. So then Gates starts.
And then we'll be caught up again.
Yeah. And we'll just go back and do X, because we were already on V3.
I mean, you did. I didn't.
Yeah.
So we could do it again.
I almost want to, but I do want to watch X.
I mean, we could do both.
Yeah.
Eventually. But in the meantime,
the original writer.
Let's start what we always do.
There are two in this show.
There are two.
The opening. It's iconic.
I don't think I didn't skip it once.
I did skip it. Not gonna lie.
Well, it's your own.
But it is iconic. I will not debate that.
I really enjoyed listening to it every time, but then in the last 10, 15 episodes, they change it.
They do slightly, yeah.
And then I skipped it because I didn't like that song as much. But yeah, the first opening I love. I love Let's Go Rider Kick.
Sung by Mr. Takashi Hongo himself.
At least for the first 13 episodes,
yes.
Yeah. And then a different person came in and honestly wouldn't be able to tell you the difference.
No, it's a very similar.
They sound pretty much the same, so.
Hiroshi Fujioka is just good. And then, he got injured after the first, I think he got injured episode 9 or 10 after doing a stunt.
Now, this is one of the things that really surprised me when I was watching this.
How so?
I did not know that this show was going to be divided into arcs the way it was. Specifically, this show does not become what I thought this show was initially.
What do you think it would be?
We'll get to it, but until episode 53. That's when the show became what I pictured in my head in terms of aesthetics, structure, enemy and monster designs, especially. That is when the shift really happened. I mean, not that it's drastically different before that. It's still more or less the same, but
it is a shift into year 2.
Yes, it is a shift. To begin with, I mean, how do we want to break this review down? Do we want to do good, bad, terrible, bad? Do we want to break it down into arcs? What do we want to do?
I sort of want to do good, bad, terrible, bad because the arcs sort of don't come into play as much for me until Gel Shocker comes on the sheet.
Okay.
And that happens.
And that's the final one.
Yeah.
Episodes, geez,
it's just Shocker.
80 through 98, so the last 18 episodes.
And then Gel Shocker.
Gel Shocker. Shocker stretching on.
Yeah. It's just a lot of Shocker.
Okay, so which do we want to start with?
I'm going to start with the bad first because I don't have a lot of bad here.
Okay.
I will say, the fact that the characters just, especially some of the side characters, just disappear.
What's her name from the first 13 episodes? The doctor's daughter?
Oh, yeah, that lady.
Who is,
Ruriko Midorikawa.
Yeah, Midorikawa, who is introduced as something of a love interest for Ryder, and then she gone. Never brought up again.
It's like when Hongo leaves, she leaves, and we never see her.
And then they never mention her again.
And then we get we have 3 more girls. And then one of them stays.
And still more girls come in, and then we have the Rider Scouts, they come in.
Which play a lot more into V3. The Rider
I remember you mentioning that in your review.
Yeah. They come more to play into V3. But the only one who actually is basically a constant. There are very few constants in this show, but the ones that are
another thing I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, there's a lot of
to touch on what I said earlier,
and they don't really do anything about why. The only ones who truly stay around are Taki, Tachibana,
Taki, Professor Tachibana,
and Yuri, the one who's like, I have a black belt in karate, but we don't really ever show it.
She was one of the girls, right?
Yeah. I think that's the thing I'm most upset about, the fact that she shows it like every once in a while that she's actually competent at fighting, and like for some reason the other girl's like a fencer, and then another one throws cards. But Yuri is the one who's there the entire time, but we don't really get to see her fight a lot, which I'm a little bit sad about.
Anything else bad you want to touch on?
I'm not sure if this is like bad or terrible bad, but it sort of did get on my nerves a little bit.
What's that?
The sounds from the monsters.
I would put that in Terabad. Because
oh, that's it. Yeah, that a lot. And it's just like, stop, stop, and stop.
Tomare.
That oh god, it was really annoying when they did that.
And it happens a lot.
Pretty much.
Every episode, because our monsters got to make weird noises. They do talk as well, but our minions and because the whole like thing with the monsters with like the balaclavas and the because that doesn't come in until episode minions. The shocker minions as I had always known them. That doesn't come in until episode 53.
Yeah.
Before that, it's because the first 13 episodes, it's the guys in red.
Yeah.
And they're just like dudes.
Yeah.
They're like regular dudes who don't make weird noises. They just talk.
Yeah.
Which I was not expecting.
It's like all the standard rider
A surprise to be sure, but a welcome one.
Yeah, all the standard rider stuff really doesn't start happening until year 2. So that's hilarious to me. It did start getting annoying the further it went along. I'm not going to deny that. I think it's because of the fact that when we see them now, it's in such small doses. So it's not nearly as, non-iconic. But since this happens every episode, I'm just like, wow, where's the cliff? How do I jump off of it?
Well, the monster's up there. He's going to get kicked off.
Yeah.
For bad, I will say, honestly, like the entire second arc.
Which arc is that?
That's Ichimonji's first arc.
Oh, well, yeah. I do want to have like a character section.
There is a tonal shift. A tonal shift. That happens from episode 13 to 14.
I think
that really it caught me off guard to say the least.
I think sort of the biggest issue I sort of have with that, Ichimonji isn't bad, but he's not as interesting as Hongo.
They're two very different characters.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that's a fault of the writer or actor.
Yeah.
Because I think the actor does a good job with what he's given. I think the script is fine for that character, but it's just such a drastic shift from what the show had been building up to that point. Yeah. Which, again, did we touch upon that? I don't know if we touched upon this on camera or off camera, but after episode 13, because the actor who played Kamen Rider, what's his name again?
Takeshi Hongo?
Takeshi Hongo was the character. What's the actor's name?
Hiroshi Fujioka.
Fujioka was injured in a stunt crash.
Yeah.
I think it was on his motorcycle. He was injured in a stunt crash and he really badly broke his leg. So he was written out of the show and they brought Ichimonji in as the new rider, and they're like, Hongo is off in Europe
fighting
Shocker over there, where the camera isn't.
The couple of episodes beforehand, it's just like they just used stock footage, and they just had somebody in the rider suit, and the person who was in that rider suit did not sound like Hongo at all.
Well, I mean, he did the voice separately.
Even still, it just did not sound like him. It was like you could tell that's like the cadence of the person's speaking voice in the suit was just not Hongo. It also just had a different pitch. So I'm just like, who are you? And what a Shocker Rider.
But that is something that they do play in with like Fujioka's performance that I did like, especially like when you get into the later, from like 53 onwards, when they bring him back, he does something with his performance that I think was really, really good.
We're still talking about
I know, but we'll get to it. Anything else bad?
Some of the girls are annoying. I'm going to say especially one. One especially.
I kind of want to save this for Terabad, at least for me.
It's all in the same category right now.
Oh, okay. Are we just doing that again?
Good God, Mari?
Uh-huh.
Awful. Trash. Garbage. Gomi even.
One could say.
She was just very, very vapid.
Mm-hmm.
She was the fencer girl.
Right.
And she was something about her, like she seemed so plastic but with no love.
Mm-hmm.
So it just wasn't great.
So while we're on Terabad.
Yeah.
So the first 13 episodes, they're pretty dark.
Yeah.
In terms of the tone, in terms of the body count.
We'll talk about that.
Like,
that'll be something we get to good.
I know, but
yeah.
touch on it. Like this show starts off fairly dark.
Yeah.
But there is still a sense of like optimistic heroism in there, which I think comes through with Fujioka's performance and with everyone surrounding him.
Yeah.
But then once we get to episodes of 14, the show just kind of turns into a Toku version of Scooby-Doo.
Yes, it does.
And I was not a fan of this change. Same. Because the tone gets much lighter. It gets much lighter. It gets a little bit sillier, a little more campy.
It was really the introduction of the other girls.
Hongo was a very serious character. Like the way he's portrayed, the way he's dressed, everything. He's very like a stoic, badass hero, but he still, knows how to crack a smile and crack a joke when he needs to. And then you have Ichimonji, who is much more like fun.
Yeah.
Much more.
He's a freelance photographer instead of a scientist.
Yeah. Not that is a bad thing in and of itself, but that shift is so drastic. Where all of a sudden we have like little kids and we have like the three girls, and then we have Tachibana becomes a little bit more bumbling once we get here, and it's just like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
This change is not working for me.
No, not at all. And it's sad. Especially because they really don't go into it in the show, it sort of happens off screen that Ichimonji was also going to be made to a writer to battle Takashi, and then...
But once again, Shocker made the fatal mistake of not wiping his memories before they did this, before they turned him into a Kaito Ningen.
They did it at the end, and then Ryder, and like Hunka just saves him and then leaves.
He saved him off screen.
Yeah. And I can understand it because they scrambled because of...
I mean, yeah, they did what they had to do to make it work because they lost their lead performer due to an injury. But I personally was not a fan of the direction it took.
Nope.
Other things in the bad Terabad category. For bad, the show itself, in terms of like the quality of episode to episode, can vary.
Yeah.
Because this show is very long. It is 98 episodes.
It also happened 51 years ago.
Yeah. So you do have to have a tolerance for the jank of the times.
There is some I want to talk about. It is
a Japanese television show from 1971, so keep your expectations, appropriately.
Yeah.
And for how it's going to look and everything.
Yeah.
But I will say this: for something good, do we want to like switch over to good?
Please switch over.
Because as far as like that last bad thing I want to touch on, it's like some episodes are good, some episodes are bad. That's television in general.
Some episodes have that weird hair in the corner.
I will say, to start off with good, the transfer that I watched, because I watched this on Tubi. This whole show is available to stream for free on Tubi.
Yeah, it's also on Shout. That's where I watched it.
Yeah, Shout Factory has partnered up with them. That's because they stream it through there. The transfer that I watched was very good.
Yeah.
The Shout Factory transfer, very clean.
Yeah.
Not like aggressively DNR'd. It doesn't look like they've tried to smear away all the grain. It just looks like they cleaned it up nicely.
Yeah.
And it's overall just a very good-looking transfer, and I liked that. It still looks like it came out in the 70s, which I appreciated, but it looks good.
Before I really get into like the meat of the good, because I do have a lot of good I want to talk about.
Okay.
Honestly, I like the kids in this show, the main ones, not the ones that just came on. They were all bad, but like
you're talking about like the Rider Scouts,
and Goro, who was like the main kid for most of the show until he just leaves. They give him like a send-off episode, but he does just straight up leave. And that's about it.
Maybe the kid had to go to school. Who
Maybe.
knows?
But I really appreciated his character, weirdly enough, because he was. I think this is one of the things I loved the most.
Yeah.
He was competent.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing is, he was like, "Oh, something's wrong. Obviously, it's Shocker." And 9.99 times out of 10, he was correct.
He was correct.
So, I'm just like, you know what? I like a competent kid. And then he introduces the two main Rider Scouts. For like the episode right before he leaves. And sets up everything for the Rider Scouts for this show.
I like the idea of the Rider Scouts, and I think they were used well. The idea of like having like, you know, these kids who are out there, you know, patrolling where Kamen Rider can't.
He's a little big child soldier is, but you know.
It's more, I would say more Boy Scouts because they don't actually fight anybody.
It is very Boy Scouts.
It's more Boy Scouts than child soldiers because they're not out there with like machine guns gunning down Shocker minions.
No, that's Peggy in Go Ranger. That is Peggy in episode 4 of Go Ranger.
Oh, seriously.
She said guns, she said explosions, and she said...
These guys.
But anyway, back to this show, because Go Ranger's going to be a fun time when we get to it.
Indeed.
But I honestly did like Goro. I liked the boys Kamen Rider squad. I think it just got changed, like the Rider Scouts or something, a little bit, because we did see girls in there too. So,
well, I mean, it's Rider Scouts. They don't see gender.
Also, like just like a random episode, they did like this whole thing where I think they went to Okayama. I think so. And they had like this whole thing. I found out about the Boys Be Ambitious thing, which is apparently some politician back in the.
That was a Showa thing.
Yeah. It was just, it's fun seeing these things in a time capsule like this. Like seeing Pan Am, people flying on Pan Am.
Yeah.
I was thinking like, oh my God. Pan Am. People smoking on the plane. No.
That's one thing. You go back and you see people smoking in restaurants and in public places, and it's like, oh, you can't do that anymore. What a time capsule.
I don't know.
That is one of the things I do love about watching older shows and movies. It's just
like society.
It's the slice of the cultural pie. Yeah. Just seeing the zeitgeist and what it was at the time.
Yeah, it was just a fun time. I really enjoyed seeing the world that was back then.
The way everyone's dressed, the way
their hair. My God,
a lot of 70s haircuts. Yeah,
ooh, the 70s were a time, child. I'm glad it's there. That, and I hope it stays. Good God.
Glad you happened. Stay there forever.
We watched, what was the last Metal Hero that we watched? Just Beyond?
Yeah, Just Beyond, yeah.
That hair at the beginning.
That hair at the beginning before he got a haircut and that outfit too, yeah.
Oof, that was...
I will say, while we're on the subject of good, Takashi Hongo's wardrobe, in every episode, I mean, in the first 13 episodes, he is always dressed very sharply with that blazer and he's wearing like blazer and khakis, a button-down shirt underneath.
And bell bottom.
And he looks very good. It's always like very form-fitting stuff that shows off his physique.
Very handsome.
He's a very handsome guy, Fujioka.
Very handsome. Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, when it first came out, I was like, oh.
But then we get into episode the latter half of the show where he comes back and he's wearing like loose clothing with like the shirt is like unbuttoned down to like below his chest, like to where his stomach is, and it's just like flowing open. And you're like, oh, okay.
They knew we wanted.
They knew. Yeah, but he's a good looking man. He's a very good actor. I think he's very, very good in this role.
Tachibana-san, this man,
Oh yeah, we got to talk about Tachibana.
You know, he got a paycheck over the next 6 years because he was in every show.
Because he was in everything, but specifically, I want to talk about his performance in the first 13 episodes, and it's so good.
Yeah,
there is a. If you've ever seen the James Bond movie You Only Live Twice, Tobei Tachibana has a very Tiger Tanaka vibe. Tiger Tanaka was Bond's main ally for that movie, and he's very cool, so suave and sophisticated. He's always got that pipe. He's always dressed very well. He's well groomed, and just a really good performance as well. And just like the way that he looks, the way that he acts, he just really classes up the joint in a way that I wasn't expecting, but greatly appreciated.
I talked about him in the V3, and I really loved him there. And seeing where he got his start here is such a different experience after watching him for the next. We saw him in this, we saw him in Amazon. And I think we saw him in Stronger, too. So he was a through line throughout
a lot of the early years,
Yeah. Then, he's not in Skyrider, but which I'm a little bit sad about. Because we're going to watch that eventually. And not seeing him in it will just be like, sad.
Yeah, true enough.
Sad. But I really enjoyed his character. I enjoyed him in V3. I knew I was going to enjoy him here. And that was.
And like even after episode 13, when he becomes more of a comedic character, the actor still gives it his all. It's still a good performance. I wasn't a fan of the shift, but it's still a good role.
Yeah.
Kiji Kobayashi, good performance. Sadly, he's no longer with us.
Yeah.
But I'm glad with what he left us behind.
Oh, lung cancer. Well, that explains all the smoking.
Yeah.
Because, good Lord, almost every single time you see him in Rider,
he's got that pipe,
He has a pipe in his mouth.
And I can't help but wonder if that was his real pipe that he brought in.
Also, I think he was portrayed as older than he was, because he was 65 when he died, and that was in 96. So he had to be like 41. They made him seem like he was like in his 50s.
I don't know if it's that they made him seem that way. I just think the actor just had the talent to
he was an Ultraman.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a
captain.
Yeah.
Oh.
I remember reading that as IMDb. And I just think, Kobayashi he has that gravitas and he has the presence to come across as much more mature in years than he was.
Yeah.
And I think that helps.
Yeah. I really enjoyed him. It was pretty much.
That's right. He was in one of the Lone Wolf and Cub movies.
Oh.
Baby Cart the River Styx, which is the second one.
I really enjoyed him.
Yes.
He was great.
Talented.
I want to talk about the actual secondary writer in the show.
Okay.
Sonny Chiba's brother.
Which, after you sent me that text, I couldn't unsee it. Because I remember I pulled my phone out. I'm like, okay, Sonny Chiba. Okay, I know what he looks like. This guy. Oh, yeah.
He's still around?
Joe Chiba. Or Jiro. Sorry.
Being
the text was small.
The uncle of McAnew, who was in Surprise Future.
And
he was also in the last Rowan Kitchen movie. He was, yeah. So he's still around, just being awesome. Because he was great. He did so many of his own stunts.
I want to talk about one of the best moments in this entire show, and it involves him. It is the episode with the owl monster, the owl hybrid, whatever it was, where it's like got Kamen Rider on the ropes. It's like up on a big hill somewhere. Kazuya just like walks up behind this thing and like freaking kicks it, just like side kicks it off the ledge, and then the camera it's this like great one shot of us following him as he goes over to like help Kamen Rider. And Kazuya Taki is a really good sidekick. He can hold his own in a fight, but they're also not afraid to like he's the damsel in distress more often than not.
Yeah, I found that to be one of the weirdest things, and I think I'm actually going to put this in the bad category. The fact that they just keep capturing.
He gets captured a lot, yeah.
Like, he'll fight his way out eventually, more often than not, or Ryder will come in.
Ryder usually rescues him, yeah.
But it's just like, I feel like he should have been the second.
He should have been a little more competent. Maybe a little.
Maybe they shouldn't have written him to be captured almost every other episode.
I don't know. I did like the twist of like him being the one who got captured instead of like the girls.
Yeah.
As is usually wont to happen.
It just happens so often.
But it happens in like pretty much every episode. So yeah, that is a bit annoying.
In all honesty, he should have been.
He should have been Kamen Rider Nego.
Yeah. He's an FBI agent.
I could agree.
And I think he had more charisma on screen than Ichimoji did to me. So, yeah, I was a little bit sad that they didn't put him in that role. But at the same time, he's the one who's on the show the longest besides Tachibana. So, what can you do?
What can you do?
We talked about the jank before, but I want to tell you how much I loved it. I love cheapness sometimes. It takes a lot of money to look this cheap, as Dolly Parton once said. And
I don't think it's a case of looking cheap, but they use what they had with the technology at the time and the money they had.
The toys on strings.
Use of toys on strings.
I loved it. The dolls flying off the cliff and exploding. I loved it. The swimming underwater, but you know it's just a blue filter. I loved it. It's so fun.
I want to talk about use of tech in the first 13 episodes whenever we see people die, usually. And they get...
Yeah.
It's brutal. They get melted usually.
Almost every single episode, somebody dies at the beginning.
Yes, in the beginning or at some point in the episode. And the way it happens, the way they shoot it, they'll have like somebody will get sprayed with something, usually like acid or whatnot,
or foam,
or it'll be foam, but it'll be but then we'll cut to they'll be screaming, and we'll cut to like a blurry shot of a mannequin or a doll or something, and you'll see it that they held a flame to, or actually melted with acid maybe, but you see that melt, and then you see just a bubble of foam, and then they play reverse footage of foam being
that's
pushed.
One of my favorite things about this. The use of reverse footage is a lot. They did it once with
they shoot
blood.
Foam. Yeah, that's it. They shoot blood in reverse, getting sucked into something, but it looks like it's being pulled up.
It's so good. I also love when a monster shows up inside a place. The lighting will change. Yeah. The smoke will come in, and then the monster show. I love it.
Yeah.
They do so much with atmosphere in this show, and I really appreciate that.
And the first 13 episodes especially,
This show said body count. This show said really jank special effects.
I think it was the second or third episode where that kid's sister gets eaten by a flower when they're on a hike in the mountains. I think they wind up saving her eventually.
They do.
But yeah, the fact that Ichimonji's just out in town and this kid just comes down the mountain sobbing because he watched his sister get devoured by plants.
Did she get saved?
I think so.
Well, it was during Ichimonji's part.
Yeah.
And they usually don't do a lot to kids in this show.
Because the girl was in high school, I think.
There was another episode where it's just the monster was using a smoke or something, and they put it inside an apartment building, and everybody dies.
Dude, that episode freaked me out. Was that the roach one?
I think so.
It was the roach, but the guys are those guys that Shocker has conscripted to work for them of hey, spray this stuff in your house. It'll kill all your roach. That's the one, right?
No, this is a different one.
It's a different one? Okay. I know what you're... But because I remember the scene where it's we see a couple, the husband is watching TV, his wife's getting ready to make dinner, and then
the smoke
starts...
oven.
Yeah, it starts coming out of the oven, it comes out of the vents, and they're all freaking out, and then...
They start choking, and
then we cut to
a skeleton.
Yeah! It's something like that. We cut to skeletons, and then we find that everyone in the apartment complex died.
And I'm just damn. This show did not care.
We're not pulling punches,
if
no.
If you are in this show, there's a good chance you'll die.
You got a target on your back. No one's safe.
Jesus Christ.
Unless you're
really don't care.
I mean, even kids. There was that episode with, I forget which monster it was, but the monster who was hypnotizing the children. Because they lure the kids away. By a guy. They have a carnival barker. Come with us. Get on our bus, and you can come to the mountains and catch rhinoceros beetles with Kamen Rider.
Yeah.
And all the kids at the playground are really excited. And then they get driven to the mountains, and they just kind of get dumped off in the mountains. And then a rather suspect shot happens where the monster leaps out and sprays a bunch of sticky white stuff all over their faces. And I'm like, guys, did no one proofread this?
Not in the 70s.
Not in the 70s, apparently. It was one of those moments where I had to double check and be like, wait, well, what? Oh, that has not aged well.
Possibly my favorite episode of the show.
Are we going to talk about episode 84?
Yes, we are.
Okay, let's do it.
This pretty much every other episode was not directed by Shotaro Ishinomori, but he comes in once, and it's for this episode.
Well, the show has 4 credited directors, I think.
He comes in once. Shotaro Ishinomori, the creator of everything
of this show, yeah.
Yeah. Well, just a writer.
Yeah, I mean, a writer of this character of Sentai as well.
So Mr. Ishimori and Sakura
Ishimori, yes.
And all that.
Mm-hmm.
He directs this episode.
Oh, is this the one he directed? Because I looked on IMDb, and he only had one director credit for this show.
Yeah.
So 84 was the one he directed.
Yeah.
Okay.
This episode is shot so differently from any other episode in the show.
Not just shot differently, but the story that happens in it is unlike anything else.
This is the only one where the monster actually turns back into a good person at the end of it.
Not only that, but we see them as a human beforehand.
Yeah.
We never do that.
It was... And the helicopter shots. They use like helicopter shots, and it's so
helicopter shots, use of atmosphere, use of locations, where we're on the beach.
Yeah.
And he's like crawling out of the ocean, and just like the strategic use of like the waves coming
it looks
in.
So big behind him. What they did in this episode is so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird seeing these shots. Like, you would not see shots like this used in a TV show, really. You would see them used in a
especially
movie.
Not in the 70s.
Yeah, you would see them used in a movie, maybe, but that really didn't start happening until the 80s.
It's like, even in Toku now, we don't get stuff like this.
No, not an episode with this kind of feel. We'll get drone shots and things like that, but they usually just use them in action scenes. They don't use them.
It's not just drone shots. It's like a shot with this kind of scale.
Yeah.
You think about the scene in Kira Major where it's that one take of everyone fighting with the mech fight going on in the background.
By the Ultraman director.
Yeah, I'm talking about scale.
Yeah.
It's like just the environment feels big and empty and oppressive.
Especially because
you don't see that ever.
Walking on the beach by himself.
Yeah.
It's
from a long distance away, and you just feel the isolation.
Yeah.
As opposed to every other show I think we've reviewed for this channel, where so many, it's shot like this. It's the two people, we're together, we're talking about something, or we're fighting something, or whatever. And this, it's just like the isolation and the atmosphere and the despair that comes through.
Yeah.
Is unlike anything that we've seen in this show, and very rarely have we seen since.
And then he like reunites with his daughter at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow. This episode stood out to me so much. And the fact that it happened so late, I think, is actually a benefit for it. Because if it happened earlier, it's like, I think I might have forgotten a little bit more about it. But the fact that it happens at 84, 14 episodes before the show is over, it really helps it. He did such a great job directing this episode.
Yeah.
And I wish he would have directed more.
I do too. But if one is all we get, then I'll take it.
Yeah.
What else would
Shotaro Ishinomori was just amazing. He was such a good writer. And you can see, because Taki is based off of like the other half of Skullman. While Hongo is obviously writer,
the hero
of Skullman.
Right.
So it's just, God, it was so good. So good. 10 out of 10. Wish he was still with us. This man was truly a visionary, and I think he would have lent himself more to things that have come.
He passed in 98?
Yeah.
98.
2 years before Kuga. That was the last one that he worked on. He worked on Kuga. And you could definitely tell in that show, because that one's very different compared to everything else.
Anything else in the good we would like to talk on? Do we want to delve more into the characters, or?
Let's talk about the characters.
Okay, let's do it.
Hongo himself, besides being exceedingly handsome, he was just a fun character. I really liked him.
He was a very fun character.
He was a little bit of a bastard, man. Yeah. My absolute favorite. It happens sort of early on, where Shocker has to find the Nazi secret. And then they dig it up. And it's just like they kick Hongo off of a building earlier. Yeah. And then they go to dig up the Nazi secret, and it's just Hongo in the box.
It was me all along. Surprise!
I paused and died for like a good 2 minutes. It was so funny.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. I love that episode. It's so good.
I'm going to talk about Fujioka's performance. Okay. It's something that we see once we get into his return arc.
Yeah.
There is something that I don't know if they were doing this as a deliberate homage, but I certainly interpret it as that, and it's this. his voice that he uses, like from the start of the Henshin to when he is Rider, is so different. Yeah. Where he uses that lower register and it's like, it's that cadence, that lower register. And to me, it felt like an homage to classic Superman. Because if you ever watched or listened to the old Superman, whether it was the Fleischer serials or the radio show where they had Bud Collyer doing the voice of Superman, and he did Clark Kent, was up here in the tenor range, this looks like a job for Superman. And he would go into that lower register whenever he was playing Superman.
And Hongo
Hongo does that too.
Big of a difference between the two here, at least that I heard. I think when he's Rider, it adds more gravel to his voice, and that's what I hear a lot. And I think it has also helped as he's come back and played the character again, because his normal voice sounds like,
because his voice has gotten deeper with age.
It just sounds.
But there's that, but also because the supporting cast doesn't know that he's Rider. At least
the only ones who actually know,
I think, are Tachibana and Taki.
Yeah,
are the only ones who know.
Yeah,
but he'll save someone because he'll go there as Hongo. And the others will be like, oh, thank goodness Rider saved us. And he'll be like, well, good thing he did. And they don't lean into that as much as, say, the George Reeves Superman show did, where
the only one
Lois would be like, I can't believe he got that story. And Clark would, wink at not literally, but there would be, that wink to the audience of, well, two heads are better than one, Lois.
It's usually just, sometimes they'll point something out about Rider, especially when, the Shocker Riders come in later on. And this is when Hayato comes back after he's been gone for ever. And he's like, why did you change your muffler and glove color? And then they start fighting because he recognized it wasn't Hongo. Because Hongo died, but he didn't. So he does that a lot. He'll just pretend to die and then he just comes back. There's one episode that sort of bothered me a little bit now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
It was the one where he just gets partially blinded and then he gets blinded at the end of the episode. You're thinking, oh, he's going to spend the next episode or two blind. They fix it immediately.
Thank God we had the cure for blindness.
Yeah, well, they were creating a vaccine
underneath the floorboards.
The entire time of the episode, but it sort of feels I feel a little bit gypped throughout that. I don't feel quite as nice.
I mean, one of the ones that really sticks out to me is the one where he dies, again, massive air quotes, by falling into the water and there's an explosion. But I don't think they show him falling into the water. They just show the monster.
Yeah. And
Taki's like, oh no, he's dead. But we, the audience, didn't see him blow up. So it's no.
Dramatic irony.
He kicked the monster away and the monster exploded. Where's this coming from?
Yeah. Shocker also likes to bring back their monsters, and we still don't know how they do it. It just happens. Occasionally they'll bring back a monster.
We kept the jar of spare monster around in case we needed to clone more.
Then they figured out just hey, we had their bodies, and I'm saying they exploded. How? Anyway, Hongo himself, I really like his character, and especially seeing him come back over the years. I really appreciate him more because we've seen him older.
Yeah.
So we don't really see him get to fight.
Because the first time he came back, Fujioka, I think, was Kamen Rider Taisen.
Yep.
Was his first appearance back after
Stronger.
Yeah, after such a long time away, and now he comes back, every so often.
After he was not busy being Segata Shanshiro.
That wasn't for that long. The Sega Saturn was, very short-lived.
But Segata Shanshiro lasts forever.
But Segata Sanshiro lasts forever.
But yeah, it was so good going back and seeing him when he was, pretty much in his prime.
I think he came back to play Sanshiro before he played Kamen Rider.
I'm pretty sure he did.
I think he came back to do a little public appearance. I don't think there's video footage of it, but he came back to do a special presentation as Segata Sanshiro before Kamen Rider Taisen, and that's crazy.
But I really, really just loved watching him in this role.
Mm-hmm.
I loved his personality. I love watching just him as a character just live. I just love that.
Just live and beat up bad guys.
Yeah. And have that laugh when he just got one over on them, which they really ramped up in V3, but I think it's to the betterment of that character.
Can you give us your best impression? That was good. That was good.
Orewa Kamen Rider.
Very good, very good.
Shinde Onai. I'm just you know what? All right. I understand where you're coming from, Mr. Hongo. I really appreciate it. him. He was a great character.
And on a side note, I like that he's active on YouTube with his family.
Yeah.
Did you look?
His son's an actor.
His son is an actor who, we'll get to that once we get to that movie. But
yeah. That's Beyond Generations.
Yeah. But the fact that, like, he's, active on YouTube, posting videos where he's talking about Kamen Rider, talking with his son and his daughters. Did you watch the Christmas video that they did?
No, I haven't.
That it was shot in his house. And he just, like, filmed his daughters singing Winter Wonderland. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cute.
Yeah, he's 70... I think he and Aka Ranger are around the same age, actually.
He looks good for his age.
Yeah, he does. You can definitely tell it's just him.
Yeah.
46. So he'll be 80 in 4 years. So he's 76. He's just out here having fun, living his old man life.
He's living his best life. Good for him.
We've already talked about Taki and Tachibana. We haven't really touched on Hayato.
Well,
Hayato is in such a weird place because he came in as a replacement.
Yeah.
I do not think he is a bad character. I think it was just mostly the part where he is the main is not the most interesting because of the writing that we got.
The episodes are not the greatest, but as what is the actor's name?
He had a lot of issues later on. Takeshi Sasaki.
Issues?
Yeah.
I did not read this.
Money problems.
Oh dear.
His house caught on fire.
Oh jeez.
And he got burned on part of his face. So he just did not have a career after that.
Oh, that sucks.
He's still alive though.
There he is?
Yeah, 75.
I hope he's doing better now. But
I know he's still friends with Hongo.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
But for this performance, Sasaki, he does the best he can. He does the best he can, and I don't like the tonal shift, and I think the quality of episodes dips, but his performance is good. Yeah. I think as the fun-loving freelance photographer who's always got kind of a he's more like sarcastic. He's more fun-loving. He's just more of an energetic.
They somehow
personality.
Have a telepathic connection betwing the two writers, and I'm just like, how?
Kaito Ningen.
And I'm just, okay.
The explanation is Kaito Ningen.
Because cyborgs. I'm just like, well.
They have little antennas in their heads that they can go, ooh.
And on the outside, which will sometimes just, good God. That's something in the bad category. This suit does not look great.
I gotta disagree.
It's iconic.
For the time period,
yes.
I think it's pretty good. Yeah, compared to suits that we have gotten in later
it's not
years.
Even that. It's just the fact that the suits are definitely jank. And you can see it because...
Monsters especially, yeah, because I'm a little worried that pieces are going to fall off.
I'm worried about some of the pieces on the rider shoes are going to fall off too because
really?
The face is crumpled, like the paper they use will come out from under the mask with the silver part. And there was one part where I noticed that the antenna would just swing around in a circle like it's about to fly away.
I don't think I noticed that.
I'm just like, well, okay.
It's one of those cases of they did not ever intend for me to see this on a screen this big and definition this clear.
No, it's not. I watched it on my computer for the most part.
I watched it on my TV with the sound bar on. I got to hear every inch of this sound.
It just did not look great for the most part. And I think, once again, that's more of an issue with the fact that the helmet did not go all the way around because there's hair sticking out of the back of it. They fixed this with V3. But in this one, it's just that, I think the fact that,
I think they're able to shoot around it for the most part. And the fact that they have black hair, it blends into the black on the suit.
I think the thing was filmed farther away.
That too.
Yeah. But, Hayato he's okay. I really, really believe that it should have been Taki. More than anything
for where the first 13 episodes were leading us, it should have been Taki. I would not have minded at all seeing Hayato as the protagonist in his own show.
Same.
If that were where you were from the start, if you wanted more of a Scooby-Doo vibe, Kamen Rider and the gang, or solving mysteries and defeating Shocker.
Yeah.
If that was where they were going from the start with Hayato as the protagonist in his own show, I think it would have worked better. As it is, circumstances being what they were, they had to stitch it awkwardly into this one, and it doesn't really work.
Yeah.
What else?
Really, it's just those two. I think the only other one that we could really talk about is Yuki, but she is also sort of in the background. She has one episode where she's like training students as a karate instructor, and that's all about that she does. I mean, Yuri, that's all about that she does. Everybody else just sort of really comes in and out of the show. Yep. Still a fun show though.
It's a fun show.
I really do recommend this.
You could skip around.
Yeah.
If an episode isn't doing it for you, don't feel bad about skipping it.
It's definitely enough where it's just like
it's
every
98 episodes.
Every episode 9 near follows the same plot line. There's some that are better than others, obviously.
That'd be 84.
84 is like the peak of it.
I think the first 13 are pretty good.
The first 13
I think are like consistently the best in quality.
Yeah, the first 13 are really good. When Tachibana comes back. Not Tachibana. Hongo comes back. That's definitely another highlight of the show. So, but yeah, there's a lot when it comes to this. Yeah, and Taki's just honestly a very solid performance. Jiro Chiba is just amazing in that role. So, if anything, watch the the Hayato episodes for him more than anything. But yeah, let us know what you think about
that'll do it for us.
The original writer in the comments below. Let us know what you think about Ultra Galaxy Fight.
And
that'll
be our next review.
Yes, and Revise. Because that'll be coming to an end in a month.
Fun.
Yep, because after that, we'll be doing Go Ranger and, of course, our first impressions on
Gates.
Yep.
Gates.
Yep.
Galugas, whatever they're going to call them.
But yeah, don't forget to join us all the things, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for watching.